Greetings and salutations. Hey besties. So I'm still in lockdown at the time of filming this. I don't know when this video will go up because I've been making like some content in lockdown, which is when I say content, I've made like an extra video, but I feel like I'm being productive, so a pat on the back for me. But basically it's nighttime right now, so I apologize a bit for the lighting. We know how I feel about ring light lighting, but I am going through it a little bit. We been knew that a bitch has been going through it a lot recently, but lockdown is just kind of escalating it as it does. And I'm really craving my comfort world and my comfort characters right now. But rather than do like a full series reread, because Lord knows I don't need to start another reread of the Percy Jackson series. Imagine reading anything new. I say this, I am reading Normal People for the first time right now. So we are also reading new things. But I thought I could just do a quick little reading vlog for the Demigod Files, because this has my favorite ride and verse short story ever in it, and I wanted to scream about it, and I thought I could find some comfort in this, especially considering it's stories told from Percy's POV, it's set during the first series. It's the kind of comfort that I need right now without committing to a full series reread, so I can still try and be productive and read new things. So I thought we could do that tonight. I thought we could have a nice little time, nice little cozy time, and reread the Demigod Files together. Fun story about this cover. So I bought this after I finished reading the first series, and I remember going to the drive-in with my mom and my sister. I cannot remember what movie we were seeing, but we were seeing a movie, and she took like a selfie to put in her Snapchat story because, you know, it was 2012 and she would have been like 13, so you know, you put things on your Snapchat story back in the day. What I used to do in photos all the time was because I always had whatever book I was reading with me when I was a kid, because I was like very lonely kid. We used to get bullied at school, blah blah blah, so I would like as a comfort blanket always carry whatever book I was reading around like in my hand, so it made me feel safe because I was cool. And so I would like hold the book that I was reading in photos if there was a photo taken of me. So there's a photo somewhere around the world of my friendship group when I was in like 5th grade, like at school, and I'm holding my copy of The Lost Hero proudly. It's just a thing I used to do. So I held this up in the photo. I'd be like, oh yeah, look at what I'm reading. And my sister was like, don't hold that up. Don't hold it up. It looks like a boy's book. You don't want people to think that you're reading boys' books. And I was like, ma'am, I just love Percy Jackson. Calm yourself. And it made me really insecure for a long time. And I still remember that. So anyway, dear God, the introductions to these books should not have been allowed to exist, because they were like fueling my little escapism brain, where it's like, dear young demigod, if you are reading this book, I can only apologize. Your life is about to get much more dangerous. That should not have been words that were spoken to my dumb little self, who just desperately wanted my favorite fictional worlds to be real, who was reading this being like, you're right, I'm not immortal, actually. What if this is real? What if I can escape here? Dangerous activity. God, I love the little like character descriptions that Percy's written, because like there's just some gems here. First of all, in Annabeth's, we have both, why does everybody think Annabeth and I are a couple? She's just my friend, seriously. Alright, Percy. But we also have 179 centimeters, kind of athletic, I guess, like beautiful. We have Grover Underwood, aka the G-Man, wonderful. In Tyson's description, we have gender Cyclops, but don't worry, he's a goodie. There's some gems here. I believe in Percy Jackson, the Demigod Files supremacy. Alright, Stolen Chariot, let's go. I'll help you, I said. She scowled. Why would you? I'm not your friend. I couldn't argue with that. Clarice had been mean to me a million times, but still I didn't like the idea of her or anybody getting beat up by Ares. And here we have further proof that Perseus Jackson is a Hufflepuff. Fight me. The fact that for Percy, he already wanted to help Clarice just out of essentially the goodness of his heart. He was like, I don't want to see her being hurt by Ares, which is kind of because of a personal grudge, but a lot of that is just Percy being a good person. But as soon as he realizes that Clarissa's brothers are just straight up bullies, his Hufflepuff instincts kick in, where he's like, I've spent my whole life standing up to bullies for me and my friends, and I'm going to do the same thing for Clarice. Even though we don't get along, no one deserves to be picked on like that. I love Percy Jackson. We boarded the Staten Island ferry at 3:30, along with a bunch of tourists who crowded the railings of the top deck, snapping pictures as we passed the Statue of Liberty. He muddled that in his mum, I said, looking up at the statue. Clarice frowned at me. Who? Bartholdi, I said, the dude who made the Statue of Liberty. He was the son of Athena, and he designed it to look like his mum. That's what Annabeth told me anyway. Percy Jackson listening to Annabeth rant about architecture and actually like remembering and recalling the things that she tells him. He's a simp and I love him so much and I love them so much. They're everything to me. This story, I'm fairly sure it's either set after The Lightning Thief or Sea Monsters, but I'm pretty sure it's set after The Lightning Thief. So this is a period of time where Percy is in school after The Lightning Thief, and he probably is carrying around that picture of Annabeth and he's just recalling little architecture facts that she tells him. And oh my god, I love him so much. Percy's greatest fear, even as like a real young kid who's only just been at camp, not that long at all, his greatest fear already being the day that the prophecy comes true, when his friends looking to him for guidance and him not knowing what to do, when the camp burning and just everything feeling like it's on his shoulders. Can someone just give this kid a break? Like, this kid did not ask for that amount of pressure, and it breaks my heart that he had that much pressure on him at such a young age, and as well that he felt such an obligation to protect his friends. I understand that. I'm a Hufflepuff, I get it, but I wish he had more chance to just be a kid, just a normal kid without the whole world on his shoulders, sometimes literally. And Clarice's fears being letting down her father and disappointing her father, because Aries is like the worst godly parent of all. He's an abusive, neglectful parent who blames his kids for not living up to the fucking unrealistic expectations he sets for them. And I hate Aries with a passion. I feel really bad for literally every child of Aries, and I feel really bad for Clarice. I think Clarice is such an interesting character, and I think Rick does such a beautiful job of having her still kind of be like the bully at camp, while also really humanizing her and explaining kind of why she acts the way she does and how our parents can have that kind of impact on us, especially when we're young, because as the older Clarice gets, the more she disagrees with her father's rulings, and she learns to stand up to him and realizes that she doesn't need that validation and she can be a kinder person than he perhaps wants her to be. But I think this series does a really good job at just showing that kind of narrative with kids and kind of showing why some kids are bullies. I think Rick does a great job with that, and it reminds me of one of my favorite moments in the Lightning Thief musical that I think is so fucking perfect, where when they first get back to camp, Annabeth says to Clarice, "We met your dad, he's not as tough as you," and Clarice is like, "You met my dad? Did he mention me?" And she gets all like soft and quiet, and Sarah Beth is just so, she says that line so perfectly and it's so fantastic, and I fucking love the musical. They capture like every character so well. I should do an updated video on why I love the Lightning Thief musical. I think it's unlisted now, but in 2017 when the cast recording first came out, I made a video called like why I love the Lightning Thief musical, and it was just me going through like kind of like every song and saying why I love it. But now that I'm familiar with like this show and like bootlegs of it, I should do an updated one. But the original video was already like 20 minutes long. Like god forbid I made another one now, it'd be like fucking 3 hours. I could talk about everything I love about that musical and why it's so fantastic for like years. Maybe I'll do it though. Let me know if you want to see it. I started to walk away, but she called out, "Percy? Yeah? When you had that vision about your friends, you were one of them, I promised. Just don't tell anybody, okay? Or I'd have to kill you." Why is that making me emotional? Literally, what is the reason for that making me so emotional right now? I am mentally ill. Percy saying his favourite part about summers at Camp Half-Blood is seeing his friends, and that coming back to camp after a year at school is like coming home. That's how I feel when I read these books. It's like coming home. I agree, camp feels like home. It just does. Percy responding to, "Any advice for kids who suspect they may be demigods too?" Just saying, "Pray you're wrong. Seriously, this may sound fun to read about, but it is bad news." I just disagree. I still want to be a demigod. You can't discourage me, Percy. Do you know how unhappy I am with normal life? I don't care if I die like immediately. Just the knowledge that the demigod world exists would make me just make up for a lifetime of shitty realness, and I would just pass away happily knowing that that exists and that's out there and demigods are out there. Let me have my fun. Bit rude. Hey besties, we have moved closer for my absolute favourite short story of all time, Percy Jackson and the Bronze Dragon. Let's fucking go. Right before the game, she strode up to me. "Hey, seaweed brain, will you stop calling me that?" She knows I hate that name, mostly because I never have a good comeback. She's the daughter of Athena, which doesn't give me a lot of ammunition. I mean, Owlhead and Wise Girl are kind of lame insults. You know you love it. She bumped her with her shoulder, which I guess was supposed to be friendly, but she was wearing full Greek armor, so it kind of hurt. Her grey eyes sparkled under her helmet, her blonde ponytail curled around one shoulder. It was hard for anyone to look cute in combat armor, but Annabeth pulled it off. You'll mind if I fucking scream. Teenage Percy Jackson, pre-Battle of the Labyrinth, Percy Jackson thinking Annabeth Chase looks cute in combat armor. She smiled. See you on the battlefield. She jogged back to her teammates who all laughed and gave her high fives. I'd never seen her so happy, like the chance to beat me up was the best thing that had ever happened to her. I simply believe in the romance of Annabeth Chase wanting to beat up Percy Jackson in a competitive game of Capture the Flag. I simply love that. Beckendorf walked up with his helmet under his arm. She likes you, man. Sure, I muttered. She likes me for target practice. Nah, they always do that. A girl starts trying to kill you, you know she's into you. Makes a lot of sense. Beckendorf, stop exposing me like that. Stop exposing my flirting tactics like that. Stop. Beckendorf shrugged. I know about these things. You ought to ask her to the fireworks. I couldn't tell if he was serious. Since he was older, I usually listened to him about stuff, but the idea of asking Annabeth to the 4th of July fireworks down at the beach, like the biggest dating event of the summer, made my stomach do somersaults. Almost like you like her. Oh my god. Percy Jackson and Annabeth Chase, when they're in that stage between like liking each other but being best friends, but walking that line of being more. Oh my god, they're everything to me. But I don't have the words. This is like my favorite dynamic ever. I absolutely adore them. It's just everything to me. Oh my god. Then Selena Beauregard, the head counselor for Aphrodite, passed by. Beckendorf had had a not-so-secret crush on her for 3 years. I would die for them. Also, shout out to the fact that Beckendorf and Selena were so clearly so invested in Percabeth, and neither of them lived long enough to see them get together. All I know is pain. Beckendorf being the bravest boy and just charging right in as soon as he saw the dragon's head. I love him. Also, hey Festus, we love a character's origin. One of the few things that I really liked about the first Trials book was the callback to the anthill and just having them be present again. I always love all the callbacks, just like the mini stories, because I just feel like it's really cool as a reader to have that payoff for like reading the kind of bonus content and then having it play a larger role in the main story. It feels like a nice payoff and it feels like a little reward. Obviously you don't need to read these to have context in the main series when those things pop up again, but it feels like a little reward when you know the origins of them or you recognize them from previous moments. It's just fun. I was about to follow when something sharp and cold pressed against my neck. Surprise, Annabeth said right next to me. She must have had a magic Yankees cap on because she was totally invisible. Annabeth Chase holding a knife to Percy Jackson's throat is something that can be so personal to me. My face felt hot. I tried to think back, hoping I hadn't said anything embarrassing. No telling how long Annabeth and Selena had been eavesdropping. Something embarrassing like how you're in love with her and how you think she looks cute in her armor, huh? If the ants are straight up killing people, they paralyze you, drag you in and kill you half an hour later, why do they just let the anthill chill in camp? Because that's not like monsters where you invite them in for training exercises. The anthill is a permanent thing at camp. Why? If I was going to pick one person in the world to reattach my head, I said, I'd pick you. I just blurted it out to give her confidence, I guess, but immediately I realized it sounded pretty stupid. Aww, Selena sniffled and wiped her eyes. Percy, that is so sweet. Annabeth blushed. Shut up, Selena. I miss them so much I might actually cry. Dragon, stop, Selena yelled. I was amazed her voice still worked. She spoke with such command that the automatons turned his attention to her. Charm speak, maybe? Come on, Annabeth grabbed my hand. She did she? Interesting. Hey, seaweed brain, you okay? Fine, I guess. I was thinking how close I'd come to being chopped into demigod hash in the dragon's mouth. You were great. Annabeth's smile was a lot nicer than that stupid dragon's. You too. I leaned against Annabeth and she helped me limp through the woods. Beckendorf and Selena walked ahead of us holding hands and we gave them some space. Watching them with my arm around Annabeth for support, I felt pretty uncomfortable. I silently cursed Beckendorf for being so brave, and I don't mean for facing the dragon. After 3 years, he'd finally got the courage to ask Selena Beauregard out. It wasn't fair. Bestie, you could just ask her out. You could just ask her out. You are brave enough. You have it in you. You know, Annabeth said as we struggled along. It wasn't the bravest thing I've ever seen. I blinked. Had she been reading my thoughts? What do you mean? Annabeth gripped my wrist as we stumbled through a shallow creek. You stood up to the dragon so Beckendorf would have his chance to jump. Now that was brave. Or pretty stupid. Percy, you're a brave guy, she said. Just take the compliment. I swear, is it so hard? We locked eyes. Our faces were like centimeters apart. My chest felt a little funny, like my heart was trying to do jumping jacks. So, I said, I guess Selena and Charlie are going to the fireworks together. I guess so, Annabeth agreed. Yeah, I said. About that, I don't know what I would have said, but just then, 3 of Annabeth's siblings from the Athena cabin burst out of the bushes with their swords drawn. Do you all get why this is my favourite little story? Do you all get why this is everything to me? Friendly reminder, and this is like one of my favourite things that have ever happened. Annabeth literally nearly killed Beckendorf, and Selena went along with it and helped and was okay with it in order to safely secure a win at Capture the Flag. I fucking love her. But Annabeth just smiled and put us in jail. As she was heading back to the front line, she turned and winked. See you at the fireworks? She didn't even wait for my answer before darting off into the woods. I looked at Beckendorf. Did she just ask me out? He shrugged, completely disgusted. Who knows with girls? Annabeth just literally asked him out. And here's the thing. I talk a lot about how much the pain of Rachel and Calypso and Battle of the Labyrinth hits Annabeth. And I think this story is a great example of where Annabeth is at emotionally at the beginning of Battle of the Labyrinth, and why she takes that hit so much, and why her jealousy gets so intense, and why she gets so catty, because she very much so believes that her and Percy have an established relationship at this point. She is full send, on main, flirting with this guy. She's asking him out to the most romantic night at camp history, because she has finally realized for herself that Luke is not who she thought he was. Luke is not the family that she thought he was. Luke isn't her family, and she thinks that Percy is her person. And she thinks that she is safe in that. She says to Percy at the end of the Titan's Curse that she knows that Luke isn't dead the same way that Percy knew that she wasn't dead, because she loves Luke and he loves her, and she feels pretty secure in the idea that Percy is going to be a constant in her life, that her and Percy getting together is going to be a thing. She at this point feels pretty safe in Percy feeling the same way about her that she feels about him, and she's come to terms with the fact that she feels that way about him. This is proof of that. And then he's being asked out by Rachel in front of her, and Rachel's flirting in front of her, and blah blah blah. And I'm not saying that any of Annabeth's treatment of Rachel is okay, but I think it's important that we do understand where it comes from. Annabeth isn't just being mean. Annabeth is acting out due to insecurity and due to like intense emotional pain and legitimate heartbreak. Also, would anyone be interested if I did like a full stage thing of like the interview with Annabeth Chase? Like if I got someone to actually ask me the questions while I was in character and I did the lines as if it was a scene. Would anyone want that? I kind of want to do that. I've kind of wanted to do that for a while. But I don't know if people would want that. Let me know. Percy Jackson, the Sword of Hades, let's go. Good to see you though. She gave me a grudging smile. Yeah, we get out of this in one piece. I'll buy you a cheeseburger. How's Annabeth? Talia asking Percy how Annabeth is. One, we love Talia showing actual genuine care about Annabeth. Obviously, she loves her deeply, but it just makes me happy knowing that some of the family Annabeth imagined for herself, while not necessarily winding up being a constant family for her, Talia is off on her own quest all of the time, and that's more than okay, but just her still showing that care and still being like a good distant family makes me happy. Obviously, I fucking love Annabeth. No one is surprised. But also her asking Percy, because she knows that Percy will know, because Percy is just constantly with Annabeth, even though he kind of isn't in this summer, but I simply reject that. Don't like to think about that. Nico, I said. Talia's eyes widened. Bianca's little brother? I haven't read this specific story in a couple years. I read Percy Jackson the Stolen Chariot last year on a stream, and I read Percy Jackson the Bronze Dragon frequently for some serotonin. I haven't read this specific story for a couple years. I forgot that Talia hasn't seen Nico since Bianca. Interesting dynamic, holy shit. How many times is Percy Jackson going to fall into the underworld or fall below the underworld? How many times? Persephone turning Nico into a dandelion. Kind of iconic. You controlled Mrs. O'Leary, I asked. Persephone shrugged. She's a creature of the underworld, Percy Jackson. I merely planted a suggestion in her mind that it would be fun to lead you to the park. I love Mrs. O'Leary. That's so wholesome. Why us? I said. You are the children of the 3 major gods, Persephone said. Who could withstand your combined power? She has a point. Why didn't they make the 3 of them fight together more often? Hostility, probably. But, like, she has a fucking point. If you actually get the 3 of them to work together and be on the same team, it's a fucking powerful trio. That's all I'm saying. I recognized the expression on his face. I knew what it was like wanting to make your dad proud, even if your dad was hard to love. In this case, really hard to love. Nico was going to do this with or without us, and I couldn't let him go alone. God bless your soul, Percy Jackson, but also don't be so judgmental. Poseidon is not much better than Hades. In actual mythology, Hades is better than Poseidon. Poseidon in this series is an alright dad, so I'll give you some points, but like, in actual Greek mythology, Poseidon's worse than Hades. Get off your high horse. Talia looking around the underworld for her mum breaks my heart and soul. But she could have also been looking for Jason, because her last memory of him was just dropping him off at the wolf house, I'm pretty sure. So for all she knew, he could also be dead. So Percy assumes that she's looking for her mother, and she probably was, but she might have also been looking for Jason, which makes me sad, because nowadays, I mean, Jason would also be in Elysium with Bianca, but nowadays Jason would be down there. All I know is pain. Who? I asked. Then I ran her through with my sword. Note to self, if you vaporize monsters, they can't answer your questions. I don't know why I find that so funny. As we walked, I tried to think about positive things. My favourite basketball players. My last conversation with Annabeth. You simp. Oh my god, I love you so much, because you love her so much. Friendly reminder that Percy Jackson is so powerful he can even control rivers in the underworld. The spirit's just taking the form of Talia's mother and telling her that she was a disappointment, she let her down. It's actually physically painful, like it's too much for me to process. Genuinely deeply upsetting to the point where it's hard to read. The giant man next to him had eyes of pure silver. His face was covered with a scraggly beard and his grey hair stuck out wildly. He looked thin and haggard in his ripped prison clothes, as though he'd spent the last few thousand years at the bottom of a pit. But even in this weakened state, he looked plenty scary. He held out his hand and a giant spear appeared. I remember what Talia said about, I don't know, I'm not going to try and pronounce the Titan's name. I'm gonna be real, I've got no idea how to approach it and I don't want to sound like an idiot. So let's just pretend I've said his name. His name means the piercer, because that's what he likes to do to his enemies. The Titan smiled cruelly. And now I will destroy you. Hey Bob! Hey bestie! I will kill you all, then I will cast your souls into the eternal darkness of Tartarus. Actually, you might help him out of Tartarus, actually, or at least one of them. Probably maybe two of them? No, you'll help one of them out of Tartarus because the other becomes a good friend. That's the situation. I remembered. I read House of Hades fucking recently. Percy falling into the river Leaf with him and just praying that, like, he'll remain dry again. Bit of a risky fucking move. To know if I approve of this one, bit of a risky plan. To quote Yelena Belova, that's a shit plan. Hello, he said. Who am I? You're my friend, I blurted out. You're Bob. That seemed to please him greatly. I am your friend Bob. Oh my god, I'm in pain. I love Bob. I love Bob. Bob just immediately healing his friend's wound. I love Bob. Persephone giving 3 demigods something to crush that'll get them out of the underworld is a bit too reminiscent of a certain film for my liking. Persephone's a bit fucking shady for, you know, building a new weapon for Hades. Even behind Hades' back, because Hades agrees that it's a stupid idea and his family will never trust him and he doesn't agree with it, but Persephone doing it anyway. Bit shady, but also Percy Jackson threatening Persephone and Persephone getting scared and backing out. Mortal teenager Percy Jackson threatening a god and the god being scared. Everything to me. And then Nico asking if Percy still remembers his offer from earlier that summer, perfectly setting up The Last Olympian. I love the Demigod Power so much. It's such a fun, quick little read. Like, it's something that you can sit down and read completely in one sitting because it's just 3 like short stories and a couple of little like interviews with characters and little activity games to do. And it's really, really fun. If you haven't read it, I really recommend it. Again, it has my favorite short story in the entire Ridenverse. Within it, I simply believe in angsty teenage Percabeth writes. I remember reading this after I read the first series, and so by the time House of Hades came out like a year later, I was the only person in my friend group who knew who Bob was, and I felt really cool for that. I knew more about Festus's backstory. I knew more about just like where Annabeth's emotional kind of arc was. I just felt like I knew so much more, and I had all these little inside jokes and things references that I could pick up on that my friends didn't, and that made me feel superior because, you know, I wanted to be the most knowledgeable Percy Jackson fan, because I'm a daughter of Athena and I'm prideful. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Sorry about the lighting the whole time. Thanks for chilling out with me and hanging out with my comfort characters with me on a really bad brain night. I genuinely really appreciate the company. If you have a favorite story from here, let me know in the comments. If any of the video ideas I mentioned here are things you want to see, let me know, because getting feedback on that is really helpful so I know what you guys want to see. I'm not sure what the next reading vlog will be. I'm not sure if I want it to be the Kane Chronicles, Magnus Chase, or potentially Harry Potter, but it'll be one of the three. Thank you very much for watching. I love you so very much, and I will see you soon. Mwah.